So our guests have both points to and fro. Let me get in one more voice. Rujan Panjwani, who is the executive director at Edelweiss, also joins in from Mumbai. And Rujan, what are your thoughts? Because there are points for and against the RBI objections. Where do you stand on RBI's objection to the gold monetization scheme, or being used as a CRR tool essentially?
Well, I think if you look at it, for this scheme to be successful, you need both the investor or the public who's going to actually give in their gold, as well as the banks, to be incentivized to make this a success. So the CRR was one such tool, and if the RBI has serious objections to it, we will have to find some other ways of making sure that the banks are incentivized to come in and actually, put their might and infrastructure behind this. And on the other side, yes, we have reduced the amount, from 5 grams to 30 grams. And that might incentivize a few retail people to come in, though our sense is that this is largely a wholesale kind of a scheme, and it will only get kicked off by some of the larger deposit holders, whether they are institutions, temples, other such, bodies coming in. It will also give time for the tax people to clarify what is their stand, because that is something that is currently weighing on everybody's mind. Nobody knows what the treatment is. So there are a lot of issues around the operationalization of this, CRR, I think, being only one of them.
Yeah, which is true. Actually, so Maithili, which brings me to my question, what's the global precedence for gold as CRR in countries where it is used? I mean, how, Soumyakanti Ghosh was referring to Turkey as well, but what's your sense, and how do government and central banks manage this particular aspect in countries where it is actually being used?
Well, CRR frankly is not a very common instrument in most other countries, and if at all they have cash reserve ratios, they are much lower than ours. The only other country which has used gold as part of CRR is Turkey, and they've had reasonable success, but that again is because Turkey made it much easier for people to surrender their gold. Along with the gold monetization schemes, they also had gold sovereign bonds, and these were far more successful. It was a conscious attempt to educate people and try and sell the scheme. So I think that is what we also need to do, learn the right lessons from Turkey.
Okay, so final words from all our guests. Really, we're running out of time on the show. Soumyakanti Ghosh, you mentioned Turkey twice in your comments to me already. What do you think, aside of what is being done, what else needs to be done if this needs to be successful?
Before that, just give me seconds. I'll just make a point over here. I think I was just making an estimate. For example, if a bank like State Bank mobilizes 20 tons, that means that is equivalent to 5,000 crores over the overall CRR calculation. So 1% price fluctuation will mean that we have to mobilize only 50 crores from other deposits. So I think that's not a big deal in terms of the price fluctuations. Now coming to your specific point of the Turkey, I think the RBI concerns regarding the CRR as a percent, the gold as a percentage of CRR stems particularly, I mean, it follows from this price fluctuations. Also the fact which I mentioned in the beginning of the show is that capital account conversion Turkey as actually as full capital account, but I think a variant of the scheme could be done in terms of having a dual CRR, whereby the CRR on the gold deposits is higher than the 4% level, or it could be a percentage of such. And the other thing which Maithili mentioned correctly is that we have to match the scheme, or run the scheme parallelly with the sovereign gold bond scheme, so that the overall objective of the government in terms of gold mobilization is successful.
Rujan, final thoughts. Am I putting you in a spot if I'm asking you to tell me whether you are with the RBI objections, or do you believe there is a way around these?
Well, I don't think there is one particular aspect of the scheme whether you want to be for or against. I think the scheme is an important thing. In the long run, it will solve a lot of problems for India. We just have to find ways of making sure that everybody is, I think, equally incentivized to make it successful.
Okay, Mr. Sunil Kumar Sinha, 30 seconds. Your final thoughts on the subject.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if one goes and looks into the overall objective of the scheme, there are no issues. Absolutely, this is important, and we must utilize the gold for the benefit of the economy. But however, in the current form, I mean, I think let's move in stepwise. I mean, first and foremost, let's make the scheme successful. If there are any roadblocks, let's overcome that. And probably once we have done that, then the issue comes whether we should allow it to be part of the CRR or not. I think we are discussing the issue even before the scheme has taken off.
Well, yes, but it was pertinent today simply because of the ET Now exclusive about how RBI has raised some objections to this very subject as well. But your point is well taken. Mr. Sinha, Maithili, Rujan as well as Dr. Ghosh, thanks so much for joining in today and giving us your thoughts on this very important subject. But that's it on this leg of hot commodities, a slightly different hot commodities, but we'll be back to basics tomorrow. For now, thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned to ET Now for more news and updates.